Are you craving discipline in your life? You just feel like you're tired of not showing up for yourself in the way that you desire to, and you just desire to be that girl, basically, right? Like that woman, that the one who shows up consistently and like gets the results and feels her best and lives that better quality of life. And while there's this picture perfect version of this displayed on social media, that still comes with the lows and it comes with the learning. And I think that's important to understand. But if you want to be disciplined, but you struggle to stay motivated, you're not alone. Okay. So maybe you find yourself not really doing the things that you say you're going to do, which makes you feel guilty and have kind of a lower sense of self trust. Right. And I'm not talking about like once in a while, or you got sick, or you got on your period. Like I'm talking about you really, really want something for yourself. Let's say it's you really want to change your lifestyle. You really want to, lead a healthier lifestyle and get fit and toned and build a muscle, and you want to heal your relationship with food and really learn and understand nutrition and your body on a deeper level. But you just find yourself like always hitting the same roadblocks, right? Like maybe you struggle with the consistency piece, or the self-talk, or the mindset, or you know what to do, but up to a certain point. And then after that, it's kind of like the same cycles, right? Like you get really toned and fit, or you lose a lot of weight, and then you slowly gain it back, or whatever is your story, right? And so obviously discipline is in so many other areas in our life, but I find that within our health and fitness goals, a lot of the times this is where we have to make it more of a practice, right? So in my experience, I find that the more that you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, it comes with a little bit of guilt, right? The good thing about this, though, is that the guilt over time from living out of alignment is going to build and build and build until one day you have no choice but to make a permanent change in your life. You have no choice. You just start to create non-negotiables. Okay, I used to always be that person. Okay, I always wanted to get fit. I always wanted to get healthy, but I didn't really like after college and I wasn't in sports anymore. I didn't know shit about the gym. I didn't know shit about nutrition. So I had to start from ground zero. Right. So the more that we prolong the change and what we know deep down we need to be changing in order to live a better quality of life, the harder it'll hit us. And this is good because it helps us grow. But you also don't have to wait for it to get that bad, right? You can start building that now. So I'm really excited for today's conversation. So I'm going to be diving deep on discipline. Discipline is not a personality trait. I get this a lot of the times because I'm a coach, and our head coach, Kiana, gets this as well. Is like sometimes our clients or people in our audience might pedestal us. What I mean by pedestal is they might look to us or look at our social media and just feel like we are always perfectly on track with everything all the time. And that's not true. We have our days. We're falling off. I literally have not hit my macros the past 4 days because I've been out of town, and I've been trying my best in certain areas, but it is what it is. I'm focused on the present and what I'm going to do now. And that mindset has really helped me have more discipline in my life. So discipline is not a personality trait. It's a practice, or it's something that is built within you at a young age. But a lot of times that discipline reflects in our career or our work life or school and those performance areas. But then when it comes to other areas in life, like our relationships or our health and fitness, it's another story, or our finances, right? It's another story. So I was not born disciplined. I have always been disciplined within my school, within my work. Yes, I was in competitive cheerleading, so I was passionate about it. So I was disciplined because I was passionate about it, right? But once I got to college, my discipline was partying, okay? So I was not born disciplined. I built myself to practice discipline within my health and fitness, and I'm still putting it into practice every single day. It's a lot of trial and error. Working with coaches throughout majority of my journey has helped me a lot. So for me, I think of, I was actually going to say, when we think of discipline, what are the first few things that come to mind? Like when you think about disciplined, what are the first few things, like the first few words that come to mind for you? I want you to think about that. Maybe you think about structure. Maybe you think about, strict or rigid. I don't know. Like whatever you're thinking about, I want you guys to think about that. What do you just think about when you think of discipline? For me, I personally think of structure. I think of consistency. I think of showing up for yourself even when you don't feel like it. That's not one word, but that's what I think about. Discipline to me means picking yourself up and doing what you gotta do because you know it's for the greater good of yourself and your development and your life and even the people around you. That's how I view discipline. Now, younger Lexi would have, in the midst of discipline, sometimes it can feel like you're missing out, right? Like, oh, I'm missing out on this or missing out on that. Or, my friends are getting really drunk and, I know that I kind of want to chill with drinking and, but they're drinking. So like you're more flexible, right? And so discipline can feel like sometimes, or maybe you have like a fat loss goal and you need to tighten up on the weekends, right? And so this, it's just going to create areas where you just have to make some sacrifices. And sometimes this can feel like you're missing out, right? Or maybe, it can show up in so many different areas. Sometimes in the midst of discipline, when you don't feel like setting up your hip thrusts, it can feel like punishment, right? It can feel like sometimes you are doing something that is in alignment with your goals, but like you just don't want to do it. And so like it feels like you're forcing yourself to do it. I don't know if you guys ever feel like that, but definitely sometimes it can feel like that depending on how you feel that day, right? And this is why shifting our language and our attitude around discipline and our rituals and our things that keep us feeling good and that are in alignment with what we say we want. Because if we go into it saying we have to, it's something that we're dragging ourselves to do. Like it's something that you're basically, a part of you is saying that you don't want to, right? Like essentially, right? You don't want to, but then you need to. And so like you have to. And that energy is going to make it very difficult to stay disciplined, essentially, right? Or on the flip side, if we understand that, okay, like this is the mindset that I find myself in. And I still, to this day, guys, I still find myself being like, I have to do this. I need to do this. But for me at this point, it's not even from a place of like, like I have to, but I don't want to. It's like, it's what I got to do type of thing. Right. But me and Coach K, we were talking about this on our Instagram live today, was like, you get to do these things. You get to go to the gym and move your body. You get to, take care of yourself. You get to get groceries and like learn how to track your macros and cut and build or whatever, the hell it looks like for you. Right? Like you get to make the decision. You get to do that. It's a privilege. It really is. And so when I look at it like that, like not that I have to go to the gym or I have to meal prep or whatever, it's like I get to, quite honestly. And so when I drill that in my head, my attitude going into it is more liberating. It's like I'm doing this out of aligned action. I'm not doing this out of a place of if I don't, then, whatever. Well, sometimes, yeah, like if I don't, then I know I'm going to feel like shit. So that's why, but whatever gets you taking action, so I've come to learn that discipline really is freedom, right? It's that delayed gratification. When we stay true to the rituals that help us feel our best, we're creating more positivity for ourselves, right? I want to chat about the 3 keys to building more discipline from my own experience of going from a party girl, love to drink, ate out pretty much every day, never, like I really, really sucked at cooking, all of the things, woke up whenever I want, went to bed whenever, screen time crazy, literally only cared about work and like school, and I did not really prioritize my health and fitness unless it was aesthetic and like I was going on a vacation or I was going to the beach and I knew I was going to be like around people in a bikini, and then that was the only time I really prioritized my health and fitness. Outside of that, it was really, really difficult for me to stay disciplined. And so now going to the place where I can maintain a physique I feel confident and good in year round, 100%. I have had phases where I've reversed my progress, and that honestly is just a part of like the journey. Like sometimes you'll get amazing results and then sometimes you'll just reverse a little bit and you have to get back on it, right? But it's a forward journey, right? It's not like I'm stuck in a cycle like I used to be. So these are some of the main things I've learned to now being able to compete. I competed in for 3 years in bikini bodybuilding shows, which requires insane amounts of discipline, to now being able to stay consistent with my goals. And consistent doesn't mean constant. Like I'm not constantly consistent, but overall a good percentage of my time I'm hitting my macros, I'm training at the gym, I'm doing what I can, I'm showing up, but I give myself grace, right? So discipline has so many layers and angles to it, in my opinion. And so I'm going to go into the main layers, each layer. And when you dial in on each layer, you will find that being disciplined is a lot easier in your everyday life. Okay. So, excuse me. The first layer is your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why? Why do you give a fuck? Why does it matter? Why do you need to change? Why do you need to do this? Why? Because if your why is fragile, if your why is like, well, that's exactly how your discipline's going to be. 100%. Right? If your why is, I'm going to keep it around health and fitness, developing your physique, building and leading a healthy lifestyle, one where you can have the harmony of enjoying social occasions, living your best life, but also fueling your body, eating enough protein, carbs, and fats, overcoming fears and toxic programmings around weight and breaking the cycle of overeating, undereating, breaking out of the mindset, the 1,500 calorie mindset is what I call it, right? And really being able to lose the fat, but keep it off long term and build a body you feel confident in and be that bitch, right? Like you all deserve that. I see a lot of women sometimes downplay their desires because they feel like it's low-key unattainable. Like subconsciously we downplay our desires because we just don't think it's like attainable for us. And so I'm here to tell you it is. But you have to have a strong why. So two parts of having a strong why are your external or extrinsic like desires and motivations and your intrinsic or internal motivations. Okay, so external motivations can look like, wanting to get more compliments from people or wanting to feel sexier in bed with your partner or, wanting to just look good and feel good on the outside, right? So it's like, or getting just like an award or whatever, like it's external. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with having external motivators. I think that they're very helpful sometimes, but if you only have external motivators, I find it's a lot more difficult to stay disciplined when you don't have that motivation, right? Internal or intrinsic motivations are going to be the things that are driving you from the inside. So external motivators are going to drive you from the outside, kind of like a carrot, to a bunny rabbit. And then your internal motivators are going to drive you from the inside, from your core forward, right? Which is why I always say you shouldn't have to, like, pushing yourself to do something is one thing, but you should feel pulled to do something, pulled to go to the gym and work on yourself, pulled, right? Like pulling yourself towards something. And that comes from internal motivators. This can look like, you want to prepare your body for pregnancy, and you don't want to like have it worse like after you have a kid, right? You want to prepare your body for pregnancy, right? You want to build those habits now so it's not harder for you later in your life, right? Same thing as like learning a language. Maybe it's you want to, it's very about your family. Maybe you don't have like a direct family, but you're thinking about your future family, or maybe you're just somebody who's committed to just developing as a person and as a woman altogether, and that's an internal motivator for you. Maybe an internal motivator for you is like building mental toughness and like maybe even more mental softness, right? Like being softer to yourself. Internal motivators are like that, okay? So they drive you from the inside out. It's wanting to do something because of like an internal desire as well. So I usually find if you have like a really strong internal desire, you have a stronger discipline. It's you're not always going to feel motivated and disciplined, but you will be able to snap yourself out of it and get yourself into taking action, at least, faster versus taking weeks and months to get back on track. Right? So with that being said, discipline is simply desire. Okay. So having an external motivator and an internal motivator, a strong one, or even just a strong internal motivator, right, is desire. So discipline is simply desire. I stay disciplined because I desire to build my dream body, a body that feels good, that I feel confident as shit in, that I can wear the shit that I want to wear and feel, this way and show up like this in my life. And again, guys, not from a place of just vanity of like, intention is everything. You can't hate yourself into a version you love, but you can only love yourself into a version you just love even more. You know what I mean? So that's what I really mean by that. And your dream body, not in like, oh, I look like this TikTok influencer, but you look like your body at its best potential, right? That untapped potential, right? And so, again, I'm not talking about something crazy, just like how you want to look and feel. Like when you envision that next level self, how does she look? How does she feel? What are her habits? That type of shit, right? So discipline is simply desire. I stay disciplined because honestly, I want to challenge myself mentally every day. I want to make it a practice to lean into areas that I'm uncomfortable, because I know that that's going to leak into other areas of my life. It's going to leak into my relationships and setting boundaries. It's going to leak into my finances and the way I show up. It's going to leak into my work and my career and my job, right? I'm going to show up more confidently. People are going to perceive me in a stronger sense, period. Right? And we're going to go into a little bit of that later on how the third layer of discipline. So when you have a strong why, you have a stronger desire, right? So this allows you to build that discipline. The second layer to discipline is values and priorities. If you say you want something, but you always do another, and you have this innate desire to live a certain way, lead your life a certain way, but there's a disconnect. This is usually due to a disconnect in your values and your actions. So values are really like principles in life and areas that you just don't negotiate on. It's like the way that you live your life. That's why in relationships, it's really important to have shared values. So that way you guys can live a life that is living within your principles, right? So I found in my last relationship, not to put anybody on blast, but, he valued the things that I valued in the beginning, but over time we valued different things. So it just didn't work, right? Like I couldn't live my life authentically because I was just living by his relationship values. And I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Now I found somebody who's aligned with my values. I'm like, it's way better. But your values are principles in your life, and priorities are the things that are just the most important to you, right? So like if you were to rank your priorities, right, you could say that something's a priority to you, but if you're moving different, clearly there's either an area that you're not setting boundaries and you're not being clear, or you're just obviously prioritizing other things above what you say you prioritize, and you need to shift. I want to I want to put a little twist on priorities too, because I know my women here and maybe even my, the men here listening are going to really like feel this, but your priorities is more than how much of a priority your health, your fitness is to you and your mental health and all of that. When I say health and fitness, that involves emotional, mental health and fitness as well. Like when you are moving your body, you're fueling yourself, you're taking care of your physical body, you're taking care of your mental health, period. Right? And if you're doing it the right way, because you could be doing that in a place that's really restrictive and it negatively impacts your mental health. And then you just need to have a conversation with me, okay, because I got you, because that's what we do. So, your priorities are more than like a list of things that are like your priorities and most important to you in your life. But also, how much of a priority are you to you, right? Like, are you the type of person right now, because we don't want to identify with it, right? Because then we're just going to keep doing it in our everyday life. The subconscious is always listening. But how much of a priority are you to you, right? Like, do you put yourself last? Do you give yourself the crumbs of your day, right? Like, you put everybody before yourself, that you're not even like your health, like you don't prioritize yourself. And so it just becomes a lot harder to live authentically. I feel like a lot of women can be really self-sacrificing, and there can be a lot of guilt with sometimes putting yourself first, or like taking time for you to go to the gym, or for you to cook, or for you to have your own goals and your identity, especially if you're a mother. I find working with a lot of moms, it can be really easy to get caught up in the identity of mom, wife, and like lose yourself in that identity. And I know that and you can sacrifice and you can put your family first, but in order for you to continue to show up in the best way for your family, you have to be first too, right? Like you have to take care of yourself. You have to be deliberate with making time for yourself, pouring back into your cup, so that way you have more energy, you have more patience, and you can live feeling like more free and more at peace within yourself, versus avoiding, escaping through self-sacrificing and self-abandonment. And I'm going to go into that a little bit next. But how much of a priority are you to you, right? Sorry, guys, my notifications are popping off right now. I try to put on mute, but sometimes it can even feel like you could be doing other things with your time, right? So this all goes back to being able and willing to pour back into you unapologetically. I remember last year when I quit my job, I told myself that my health, my fitness, my wellness, all that shit, like wasn't a priority at all. I was like, hitting my macros isn't a priority, like all that shit, the gym, everything not a priority. Work is a priority. And girl, I made work a priority. And 3 months down the line, I had gained 20 pounds. Obviously, not all of that was fat. It was obviously inflammation from being sedentary, overeating on the weekends, right? Alcohol, like all of that shit, right? I was really, really inflamed. I was also so sluggish all the time, so lazy. Oh my God, I feel like a zombie. I was under eating throughout the week, overindulging on the weekends, and my activity went so low because, well, it wasn't a priority, right? And I felt the consequences of that. So if you feel like, sometimes there's a lot going on in life, and sometimes work, sometimes vacation, sometimes whatever takes a front seat. But learn how to adapt, learn how to be, okay, what can I do? What's the bare minimum I can do to stay taking care of myself and feeling good, versus throwing it all away and having that all or nothing mindset, right? So the third layer and the last layer to discipline is self-love and self-worth. Those with higher senses of self-worth will have an easier time being more disciplined, in my opinion. because it's a higher sense of knowing internally you deserve it and you're worth it, and that you may have self-doubt here and there, but like, you know that you can do it, and like, you're deserving and you're worth it, right? You might just need some support. You might, need to be pointed in the right direction. You might have to put into practice, but you are worthy and you're deserving and you are capable, right? And you might not feel like this all the time, but again, people with higher self-worth are going to have an easier time with that. Now, don't be sad if you feel like deep down your self-worth is a little bit lower. You don't show up for yourself. You fall more into self-abandonment and self-neglecting. That will usually have like a correlation to your self-worth. A lot of the times when we show up for ourselves, we're showing ourselves that we are worthy and that we're deserving. When you don't feel like meal prepping, when you don't feel like going to the gym, but you do it anyway, and you come from a place of, because I deserve it, because I deserve what comes with it, because I'm worthy of it, and because while I might feel scared and I might feel like I can't, I'm going to show myself exactly the opposite, right? So when you work on your self-love and loving yourself unconditionally, it means you learn to love yourself without conditions. So you learn to love yourself even though, whatever, right? Like, you learn to love yourself unconditionally, no matter how you look, no matter the mistakes you make, no matter when you fail in certain areas. You learn to speak to yourself more dominantly with self-kindness. So the easier it feels for you to speak to yourself with compassion and grace, and the more that you speak yourself up, that is a sign that your self-love that unconditional self-love is increasing, right? If you have a lot more of that negative self-talk and it's really, really hard for you, that's an inflammation. But it's also something you can work on through practice. So your relationship with yourself outside of your goals is going to have a big impact on your discipline levels. When you date someone, what do they say? Actions speak louder than words, or actions over words. And the same goes with the relationship with yourself. And while, yes, words do matter, the way that you speak to yourself, the stories that you let play out in your mind, that do matter. You have to show yourself through actions by saying, I don't feel like it, but I'm gonna do it because I deserve it, and I fucking deserve this, and I deserve to feel good, and I deserve to look good, and I deserve to do this for myself and for my family, and my family deserves it if that's where you are in your life, or my future family deserves it, my future partner deserves it, right? Then being disciplined feels different. You start to see difficult differently. It's also being able to give yourself grace for falling short and reminding yourself it's okay to not be perfect. That's a form of self-love, right? So this also allows you to be more disciplined because you're not putting so much pressure on yourself to operate out of a place of perfection, but you're allowing yourself to be imperfect and to learn and to grow at your pace and to ask for support. Because if you also are somebody who thinks you need to figure it out all on your own, or you should have it all figured out and you need to do everything on your own, good luck, girl, because that used to be me. And that hyper independence is not a flex. It's not, because you can't do everything. You're not Superwoman as much as you have identified with it. I mean, you are Superwoman, girl. You could do anything, but also, like, we need help, and it's okay to be open to receive. And that's that feminine energy a lot of us have to heal, is being open to receive and being open to receiving that support and asking for help and knowing that you're deserving of answers and of guidance, right? So, I really hope that this podcast episode hit for you. If it did, it would really help the podcast out if you were to just take a screenshot and share in your story, tag me, and spread the word. I love the fact that you guys take the time to listen, and I hope you guys get value from this. I would love to hear a review. your takeaways. I just love when you guys DM me feedback, and it just really motivates me more to continue with this podcast. So I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your week. Reflect on this conversation today and ask yourself, how are you going to show up moving forward? Review your values and priorities, your self-worth, and DM me if you need a little extra help. Love you guys. Bye.